Hello again, my name is Lino Tadros, and in this video I'm going to show you how to use the iCustomWidgetVisualization to be able to change the text and also change the icon inside of your design time widgets inside of Sitefinity for MVC. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to take myself out of that video and we'll go ahead and open up the site. So as you can see in here, I have a page that I created completely empty called Custom Viz. If I click on it, so one of the things that you probably wonder, how do actually the Sitefinity developer end up creating that content? So let's bring any of those in here. Let's put it in the middle. You see that logo there? And you see the word that says create content? How can you do the same thing in your own component? So you can actually change the logo that will show up in here and also the text that goes underneath it. A lot of times you don't need to do that. It will just take the default, but sometimes it's important to actually show exactly what you intend for the business contributor, for instance, to understand what needs to happen on the component in here. Make sense? All right, so let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to go ahead and open up Visual Studio. And right now I don't have any controllers or anything in MVC, so I'm going to go ahead and create one really quickly. So we'll do that by using the VSIX, which we call it the Sitefinity V6. You can go to the extensions in here, manage extensions, and make sure you search for Sitefinity V6. So if I put the word Sitefinity right there, it will show you that we have V6 for VS 2022. And once you install it, I already have it installed, but it should take you a couple of maybe less than a minute to install that if you don't have it. Once you do, you can right click on the project and you can actually say add, and you'll see Sitefinity showing up at the bottom and there. And now I can say I'd like to create a widget. All right, that dialog in here will show up on a different monitor. Let me bring it in and we'll call this one, you can call it anything you want. We'll call it custom widget, for instance. Sounds good. We'll say okay there. And that will actually generate a lot of different code in the views, in the controllers, and in the model, and so on. We'll say reload all. Now, if I go to the MVC, notice under controller, I have my custom widget controller, and in the model, in here, I'll have a custom widget model, and in the view, I'll have a brand new folder called custom widget, and underneath that, I will have the normal index.cs HTML. It's just the VSIX actually saves us a lot of time from creating all of these in the correct folder and with some cookie cutter code that is needed to be there. There is my class in here, the public class that inherits from controller and iPersonalizable interface. So if you'd like to actually implement that text and that logo, there is another interface that you need to bring in, and that interface is called iCustomWidgetVisualization. That is the name of the interface in there. And by the way, this guy is available in a namespace called Telerik Sitefinity Web UI. So we will add that to the using statement. And there is still a red line because there is a couple of functions that you have to implement on this interface. So let me go ahead and click on it again, and we'll say implement that interface. And it will add two functions at the bottom. One, actually it's not a function even, it's a property. It's a boolean, it's called isEmpty, and another string property called empty link text. So you probably can imagine what these are. The last one is probably the easiest one, is that what text would you like to put at the bottom underneath the logo inside of the content placeholder. So I'm going to just hard code it for right now. We'll say something like, wow, this is way cool. Alrighty. And that will be the text that will be showing up at the design time. Of course, there is here a property called isEmpty. Usually in real life, this will be a function that you will need maybe to go to the database and find out what is available, what has not been set yet. If everything has not been set in the database for all your widget designer properties, for instance, then you would like to then you need the function to return isEmpty equal to true, so that we can actually see all the stuff. But if some of the view will need to go get something from the model, and this is not empty, and this function, for instance, returns something that says false, it is not empty, then we don't need to do anything else. The view itself will take place and it will start displaying, so it's not going to be an empty one. Make sense? For right now, I'm going to hard code it so that you can see it. We'll say isEmpty equal to true. As long as it's empty is equal to true, then this guy will show up. And also, I'll show you later how to add an icon to this as well. Let's go ahead and save this. And one more thing we will do, we will put it maybe, that's okay, we can keep it in the custom widgets for this example, it's no problem. All right, let me go ahead and save this. I'm going to compile it one more time, and we'll go ahead and run it in here in Sitefinity to see if I can see the new component, and we will see what's going to happen in there. And yes, we will not debug it for right now. All right, it's got starting up again. We'll give it, I'm going to stop the video for maybe another 30 seconds to compile the entire site, and I'll be right back. All right, great. I am back at the custom viz. Let me see if the new section has been created. And there it is, custom widgets right there. And that is my new custom widget. Let's see what happened. Let me go ahead and take this guy out of here. And now, all right, I'm going to go ahead and refresh this page here. And then we will go ahead and grab one of those. So let me go to the custom widgets, and I grab this and put it right there. Look at that. Now it says, wow, this is way cool. That's my text that I entered in there. But the logo is the default one, okay? So it used exactly the same icon that it was able to use before. So again, if you click on it in here and actually start entering something in the message, for instance, or whatever, notice these are read only. So we can actually also make them browsable equals to false, so people do not have to see them in the custom widget for the widget designer itself. That's fine too. But once actually this message is not empty, okay, so if I put anything in here, we'll say save, for instance, then of course the view will take place. Oh, so why is this actually still showing? Because we are actually hard coding that says empty is true all the time. Okay, so we need to create a function to make this go away and to be false once it finds out that the message is not empty and there is something else that got persisted into the database. Make sense? All right, the last thing I wanted to show you for this video as well. Let's open up Visual Studio. Right now, I'm only doing the is empty and the empty link text. There is another way to do this by going at the end of the ICustomWidgetVisualization, and it's called extension. So there's another interface called ICustomWidgetVisualization extension. And if I implement this one actually inherits from the ICustomWidgetVisualization, but it adds one more property in here. I think it's not extension, it's extended, I believe. Yes, it's ICustomWidgetVisualization extended. And if I implement this one, I'll say implement interface, it will still bring in is empty and empty link, but there is a third one called widget CSS class. So whatever class you're going to be passing in here inside of a CSS file that hopefully you have loaded on your project itself or in the template, that will be the background image, which would be 50 by 30 pixels for that image. So let me go ahead and create something called Lino, for instance, in here. There you go. So, oops, there you go. So right now I'm saying whenever you display this, I want to make sure that there is a class in a CSS file called Lino, and hopefully that will contain a background image that has a PNG or a JPEG of size 50 by 30 pixel width and height. And that will display that inside of there. All right, let's go ahead and save all that. Let me also, while I'm at it, let's create a brand new folder in here. We'll say add folder. We can call it whatever we want. I'm going to call it CSS, for instance. And inside of the CSS, let's go ahead and create another style sheet. We can call it main, for instance. And there is the main.css. And in here, because I called it Lino, we'll say dot Lino. And in here, we'll say background image. Background image, there it is. And in here, I am just going to go ahead and say URL. And we will pass it relative. I'm actually going to keep it simple right now. And I'm going to actually be able to pass it in the same directory. So I'm going to call it, for instance, my image dot JPEG or PNG, whatever the file is. Okay, so we'll say it like that. There is one thing that you have to be careful with whenever you're dealing with the ICustomWidgetVisualization extended. Sitefinity is always going to try to override that image, so make sure that you always come in here and say pound important. And if you don't do that, unfortunately, you will notice during the debugging session that your line for the image will be crossed out. That means something more important coming from Sitefinity have overwritten that. So make sure your background image has a pound, important to make sure that your image is the one that's going to show up. All right, let's go ahead and save this guy. What else can I do to make sure that this will work? Let's make sure that the main.css is going to be loading on my template. So let's go to the resource packages, Bootstrap 5, MVC, views, and we'll go all the way down to where it says layouts. So let's see where the layouts are right there. And there is my default.cs HTML. And what I would like to do is I'd like to cheat and maybe copy one of these lines. Let's take this line for the style sheet loading. And I'm going to paste it one more time. And this time we'll go ahead and say CSS is the name of the folder, main.css is the name of the file. So at this point, and by the way, the Razor syntax compiler will kick in here in a few seconds. So all these red lines will go away. Be patient. There you go. It kicked in. So now I'm loading a style sheet coming in from the CSS main. So right now, knowing that my MVC template for using Bootstrap 5 will have to load using this template from the CSS.html file, my main.css will be loaded. So I know that the Lino class will be available through that page. Excuse me. Alrighty. Anything else I still need to do? So now my CSS is loaded. The default.cs.html is in there. And the Lino class, I think we're good. So now if I say save all, and we'll compile it and run it one more time. Say build this guy. And once it finished building, I'm going to run it, and we'll be able to hopefully see our icon showing. Oh, well, we don't have the image, right? So let's go ahead and get the image as well. I'm going to open up here. Let's say I have a nice little dog, my dog right there. So let me say copy this guy. Okay. And I'm going to go to the CSS folder and we'll say paste. And let's go ahead and change the name of it. It has to be 50 by 30. Remember that though. Okay. We'll say my image.jpg. Okay. So that's the same name that I have. All right, excellent. Let's save all, and I'm going to go ahead and run it. And drums rolling, and hopefully if we've done everything correctly, we will be able to see not only the text, but I'll also see the image on top of it working. So I'll come back once it finishes loading the site. All right, it finished compiling, and we're ready to go. So let's go back to my custom widget section. There is my custom widget. If I drag this and put it in here, and voila. So one of the properties is for the empty link text. Wow, this is way cool. And there is my 50 by 30 image showing up for my dog right there as well. I know it's a small thing, but again, in case you would like to give some more help to your business analyst and your contributors on the site to explain to them what exactly they're about to do with your widget, you can actually add text, you can add an icon in here. And you can implement the function for the isEmpty property so that once one of the properties has been dirtied, that means it's not the default empty one, then this will go away, return false, and then your view will be the one that will end up being displaying. Hopefully that was useful to you. You get an idea now what's going on behind this logo and text underneath every single one of these components. And if you want to implement it yourself, you're more than welcome to do that. Hopefully we'll see you again in the next video real soon.